Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot. We are jumping into another one that comes from two places now. It comes from the inbox, but it also comes from questions that were showing up in yesterday's reading. So, this one is going to be kind of, does your person realize, are they conscious of the behavior and the impacts of their behavior? And it's come out in a lot of ways. Like, does my person realize how they're coming across? I've had two readings where it came out that the person had narcissistic tendencies, and they may or may not have quite realized the impact of their actions. There was also one person just asked, or one person recently asked, like, did my person just play me? And my first response, yeah, as I was thinking it through, was, I don't know if they had enough realization to do that. And so that's kind of what we're going to ask. Are they aware of the situation, or are they sort of along for the ride, I guess? That's part of what we want to see here. So of course it's a general reading for the collective. As usual, it's not going to resonate with everybody. It shouldn't resonate with everybody because it is really for the folks in the collective. But if it's you, if it's your story, take a look at some of the other messages and maybe see if there's something else there that might be useful for you. And you may also wish to subscribe. These readings have all been very much part of one big story. So we're going to jump in with that energetic backdrop and just kind of see what's sticking out today in the energy between the two of you, because a lot of times that can be really helpful in understanding what's happening. It's been an issue with balance. So this is something that's been coming out a lot, only it's been coming out kind of in different ways. So this is an issue of daily balance. It's not that long-term balance. It's more of a, how do I just keep things afloat for the few minutes that I am willing to look at ahead of me. So this is somebody that's not even got that one day at a time sort of feel to them. It's almost a few minutes at a time, and it's got some different feelings around it. Part of it is this intense kind of sadness, almost going through a sadness that feels like it is minute to minute, like you are trying to get through. That's almost your energy. I don't know, maybe if you're having a particularly tough time emotionally, then this is the energy that I think is coming through with you. With your person, though, there's just such this disjointed sort of feeling of not being completely self-aware, but not unaware. Okay, so we have the Two of Spheres also that has come out here. The Two of Spheres and the Five of Swords here in reverse. The Two of Spheres in reverse is not having balance. So it's the same card as the Two of Pentacles, only what it's telling us is there's this supreme effort toward balance, but that balance is not really being felt. So in today's energy, there's a struggling to stay on the tightrope. This is not the big tightrope of temperance where it's a hard won balance and you have a plan for when things don't necessarily go well. This is more of shallow breathing. This is trying to get by just one bit at a time. There's a Five of Swords in reverse here that talks about consternation. It talks about anxiety and a feeling of falling down, going down a dark path but not being able to go back up. It's almost kind of got that feeling to it. There's a despair feeling around it. So this is a tough day for some of you. It's a really tough day for some of you. It's a tough day for some of your people, but I think this is more coming out in your energy. And I think a lot of times when we pull the energetic backdrop, a lot of times what I feel is, hey, here's what's happening with your person. I don't necessarily get that sense that it wants to talk about you more than anything else. But these first few cards definitely are about you. This King of Swords in reverse, though, I'm wondering if this one isn't a little bit more shared energy because, first off, it's not quite as It doesn't have quite the same feeling and flavor of these other cards, but with this one, it's more it's that shallow breathing feeling. But the thing is, I think your person also is having a hard time with this piece. This piece meaning, so it's the King of Swords. It's the ability to step back and look at the big picture and just kind of understand what's going on a deeper level. Be able to devise a strategy. It's a very logical king. The King of Swords is very logical and well ordered, but also can be a little bit too reliant on that. So this is kind of that lack of stability and almost relying on it as a defense mechanism, but not necessarily even getting the best out of it. So that's a tough feeling, but it feels like it may be one that is shared. So we have the Queen of Cups. There is this feeling of extreme amount of love, but it just like sometimes I'll get a card and it'll come out sideways, or it'll come out one way, but I'll also feel it in this orientation. I'm getting a little bit of the Queen of Cups in both orientations. So there's a lot of love here, but there's also this feeling of potentially a little bit of codependence or emotional dependence, something that feels like I can't be happy unless, and then you have to insert whatever's appropriate about this other person over here. So there's that. This is a feeling that is also shared. So it's kind of making me wonder about the first part of this. And ultimately, what we're asking is, does your person realize how they're being? And so if this is in the energy, this is giving them something pretty strong to react to. So it'll be interesting to see how it comes out. We've got the Nine of Cups in the reverse and the Eight of Spheres in the upright. So this is like the Eight of Pentacles in the upright. This is about emotional self mastery, but it's also mastery of other kinds. So this is about maybe even focusing on mastering something else, focusing on another skill because of a perceived need to have a greater self mastery. And it's like there's this feeling that if I'm able to do that, I'll be able to build up this ability in myself to handle these stronger emotions. So this could also be both of you, but this one feels a little bit more like your person's energy. And so does this, although this is definitely a message that has come out for both of you across time. In the energy that's coming out today, this one feels more like your person. So this is the sense of not really knowing which direction to go, kind of like they've burned all possible bridges in one way or another, and they don't know which way to go, and they don't even know at this point what it is that's going to make them happy. That's part of, okay, for sure, part of where this Queen of Cups feeling is coming from, where there's a little bit of codependence, a little bit of codependency, a little bit of interdependent emotions. They feel like they can't be happy unless something happens that really ultimately isn't going to be attached to their emotions. So even if they get that, they're still not going to be happy. There's going to be something that's still missing. Um, okay, and that was that for that shuffle. Although we're not done with this little stack, I never know how many of the cards that turn over are going to be the ones that we want. So we've got the Judgment card here. There is a desire to, if you guys have had communication, it's really weighing heavily on them. There's a desire to kind of look at the big picture, but with this King of Swords over here, they're having a really hard time doing that. And here's that Temperance card. It's like its ears were burning. And okay, then we had the High Priestess that was in reverse there, and it's more of an honorable mention. But with this with this Temperance card, this is a feeling of wanting that true, I can stay on the tightrope even if there's a little bit of wind kind of feeling. This is a real balance. It's a hard won balance. And ultimately, it's like um, your your energy or your person's energy. I feel like it's yours, but it's also it's confusing because it's a little bit shared, except I think on their side it's shared, but it's somewhat latent. Anyway, there's this feeling that like almost bargaining, like if you could just get me past this, I'm going to do the things that bring me closer to balance. That's almost like the bargain that's wanting to be made there. It feels like somebody has a hangover and is bargaining with God to, let them feel better and they won't drink anymore. It's almost kind of got that sort of desperation feel to it. And that's what's in the energy today. So if you get nothing else from it, I would say there's that feel of desperation and that feel of not being able to quite get balanced or figure out how to get balanced. And it's a very challenging sort of energy that's in the air. I can feel it. It's hard to even talk about it in some cases. Like it's hard to get the words out. Um, so let's go ahead and see how they are about how they're being. Did this person just play you? Are they conscious of their narcissistic behavior? Do they realize what they're doing and how it is impacting? That's kind of the question that we're after today, and hmm, especially after yesterday's reading and the extended to that reading. So we have the 10 of cups that has come out here in the reverse, and that's not a conclusive answer. That's not a conclusive answer as to whether or not they understand it. They have been thrown for a loop. This 9 of cups that's in the reverse over here and them not quite understanding what it is that they want and that feeling like they burned every bridge in some way. So there are some bridges like they've burned the bridge and they're on the other side of it. Like they can't get away from whatever it is. This is a super wild energy today. I'm glad we're doing this reading. But we're wanting to understand if they understand what's going on. We've got the 9 of spheres, which suggests they are not as in control of things as they would like to be. But the 3 of the spheres here says that they are far more self-aware than they would lead you to believe. So they're more aware of their behaviors than they would want to lead you to believe, which is consistent with other readings that we've seen in the past. They also aren't that good at it. Like they're having a really hard time, or their perception is that they aren't that good at it, and so that really that impacts them. But it's like there's this fuzzy energy over here, like it's just dissonance, this really discordant energy, and it has a lot to do with they don't have the self trust. They are they're self aware, but they don't believe what they're seeing. That's interesting, and we don't want the rest of those. It's always interesting when I get there and I go, oh gosh, I hope people haven't been looking at that next card because I haven't, and I don't know if it's in the reading until I get to it. Okay, so we have the Knight of Cups. There's that strong desire to communicate again, and this strong, with the Four of Cups, this strong appreciation for it goes beyond appreciation. This is almost obsession energy. Like they have a hard time getting past it, and so they're all stretched out emotionally. With the Queen of Swords and the King of Cups in reverse, this is like the ghosting response, or the I'm no longer going to communicate sort of response. And this is them, they're like hiding. This is a very much a hiding and not even thinking about how it's impacting other people. So they do know on some level that it impacts you when they're extremely quiet, uncommunicative, can't be vulnerable, can't come back. They do know that it creates an issue, but they also rationalize that. That's something we saw in yesterday's reading. They also rationalize it when they make the decision to spend the time with someone else or somewhere else, or to not send that text. Although the feeling around not sending that text is really much more a different type of fear. That's much more of a staring, down the barrel and losing your nerve kind of thing. Whereas this is not wanting to come out of hiding and coming up with a reason. Every day at the beginning, they're coming up with reasons why they can't contact you and reasons that they have to do something else. After a while, it becomes more of something they try not to think about. But it's really hard to do that when they've got this Four of Cups, almost obsession energy. They're very impressed with you. They're very impressed, and they built you up to be something in their mind that is maybe not even how you would see yourself. But it's very impressive, and you can handle things that they maybe don't feel like they can handle themselves. It's this is part of, so they're aware of it, but they don't have they're aware that their behavior has an impact. They may even be able to articulate some of what that impact would be, especially if you have some of these narcissist people are incredibly convincing, and can be so disarming with the way that they describe to you what they're doing that you become very clear that they understand what's happening. But what they're not telling you is that there's so much uncertainty in them that after they've run into you, who we saw yesterday is the end all be all for them, they have kind of lost their nerve a little bit and they've become unbalanced. They're desperately seeking a balance. You may also be desperately seeking a balance. For them, it's because they've gone into a tailspin because they realized they aren't even the person that they thought they were. So, as they're going through and figuring out they don't want what they thought they wanted, they aren't the person that they thought they wanted, it is complex for them to also properly and correctly interpret the impact of their actions. So we've got the Page of Wands here, which is that's that curious page. So you were encouraged to move in the direction of this type of curiosity in the previous reading. But we also have the Three of Wands here, which is okay. So when your person is attracted to you, one of the things that they feel is like they don't have, and I know I have a lot of people that are in different countries and are coming with different languages, so I don't want to use a whole bunch of strange sayings and idioms. But it feels like they don't have a leg to stand on. They feel like they don't have they don't feel like they can measure up. They don't, and this is nothing but idioms now that I'm trying to say it. But basically, they don't feel like they are qualified to be with you. They don't feel like they can quite measure up to what they would need to be, and that weighs heavily into how they interpret the behaviors that you make. So they're probably misinterpreting some of your responses to these things as well. But there may be a fair amount of interpretation on both sides. They have a lot of love for you. We're gonna look a little bit more deeply into that when we get into the extended and look into their emotions around you, because in a lot of them, I'm getting this sense of they are potentially may have some narcissist tendencies, but they also are very much enamored by you and attracted to you and can't stop thinking about you. So their normal modus operandi is to simply disappear. But they've had a really hard time with it. So we're going to get into that a little bit more in the extended. But again, what I'm seeing here is yes, they have some idea, some interpretation of what's happening there, but it may not be completely accurate, and they're very aware of that. So, before we go off to do that extended, let's look at your area of focus and what you would be wanting to work on. Um, oh, first thing I did was drop a card, but it was like the one that was already coming up, and it came up perfectly for me. But it's the Emperor, and this one is about establishing that solid foundation in your masculine energy. That's what I wanted to. That's what I want to say. Solid foundation in your masculine energy. So it's a nice balanced place to be. You would also have a solid foundation in your feminine energy, but what your focus should be on right now, given the rest of this, is going ahead and providing for yourself. The masculine energy can mean a lot of things. In this case, it's about providence, and it's about making sure that you're connecting with your higher self and your higher power to allow for you to be able to provide for yourself. And your higher self counts as part of you. So we've got the Ten of Wands that has come out as part of this. It's a reminder. You've got, okay, the Ten of Wands, the Tower, and the Ace of Wands came out in reverse, but it doesn't want to be part of the reading. It's relevant though, because it's about the thing that you want to move toward that's going to set your soul on fire. That Ace of Wands in reverse is saying this is part of what's in the way, for getting to that. So we've got that Tower that's come out for you a couple times here, the one that you've been told to lean into. We've also got the Ten of Wands, and this is a reminder for a lesson that you've gotten here recently as well. This one is about setting down those loads and those burdens that you don't really control. So you've got the recognition of things that you don't necessarily control, and the change that's coming your way that you are encouraged to absolutely move into it, jump in with both feet. You have the Wheel of Fortune and the Moon here. And I couldn't quite see what was beneath that, but it didn't have the glow. So you have the Wheel of Fortune suggesting that you will be given some opportunities to learn the lessons that seem like they're really difficult and that are eluding you. Oh, and by the way, there will be some that are eluding you. So the Moon card is letting you know that there are going to be you're going to be operating without all the information in some cases, but this is something where you're going to learn to be okay with that. That's definitely a lesson that we've seen and that we've a phenomenon that we've heard talked about. A lot of you are already quite capable of handling things and making decisions with less information than you might ideally have. But this is going to be doing that in a new way that maybe doesn't feel as comfortable to you, might be more of an emotional thing. With the Wheel of Fortune, we have this it's not stagnation, but it's definitely the energy slowing down to give you an opportunity to learn some of the things that have potentially been learned before but not maybe in their entirety. So it's a lesson that you maybe got most of it, but there was still some edges there that needed to be smoothed out, something else that you were ultimately going to have to learn. So let's see here. I thought there was another one in there. There it is. We've got the Seven of Spheres, which is like the Seven of Pentacles. So, okay, I guess this is because the Three of Wands in reverse is already taken. The Seven of Spheres is here to remind you that you have already made a significant investment. You have already gone in pretty far in the direction of your own healing, and you are headed for what is ultimately going to be nice success there. But one of the things that's happened is your person and you have this really strong bond. But your lessons are very much associated with each other. So part of the reason for that bond is around them not being able to like they can't open up. They can't be truly vulnerable with you. We've seen this time and time again. And part of the rule or the lessons for you is to create boundaries around what you're going to allow people to get away with and what you're going to allow people to do. Not in a like an aggressive or confrontational way, just if somebody's not really going to move confidently towards you, if they're going to give you this Knight of Wands in reverse sort of behavior, which is that in and out, it's that player energy, it's the jumping in, jumping out, and being very inconsistent but flamboyantly so. You're going to say, you know what, if you can't actually just bring this straight ahead, I'm really just going to have to wait until you're done, until you're ready to come back. Like um, this is not somebody that's ready to interact with you, but being able to get to a place where you can discern that. It's that 10 of cups lesson that you learn over and over, and your person is your 10 of cups lesson. It's that what happens when you see something that seems too good to be true. And it's going to come down to what you find when you get up closer to it. If it really does need to go back, and this is a person, for example, that is inconsistent with you, that is ghosting out, that is not prepared to deal with you yet, feels like they've been in the they've been lagging behind throughout the entire process. They never felt ready. That's what we saw in the previous reading. Then maybe that's okay. And it's all right for them to go back and learn a few lessons. But in the meantime, it looks like we've got some lessons for you to learn as well. One of them is definitely around feeling like you are deserving of what you're earning. So you're earning, but you're not necessarily feeling deserving of it. It's about allowing that love to come and go in and out of your heart equally, like breathing. You know, you want to be able to give and receive love equally. You're so good at giving it. you might not be quite as good at receiving it. And in some cases, you may not feel that you're quite worthy of receiving it. So, the King of Pentacles is one of my favorite kings when it comes to masculine energy. And if this is all about you building that foundation within yourself of providence and that masculine energy, then this King of Spheres is a great place to focus. We also have the Talisman. Okay, so this is one of my favorite cards, but what's interesting about it is the message coming off of it is possibly what I would consider to be a little bit unorthodox. This is really about, okay, so if you keep a journal, you are the best way that I can encapsulate this as advice is please go back, look at earlier portions of your journal, and without any judgment, without making any assumptions about how you felt or what you think you're going to find there, go back and see if you can identify it. If it's not journal, maybe it's communications with your person, something that dates your feelings, something that gives you an idea and a perspective of how things have changed across time. Take that and go sit with it in meditation or prayer and just think through what the implications really are of the things that have changed, because what you wrote down is what you were feeling at the time. Or when you see it, you'll be reminded of sometimes in an email what you were feeling or what you were doing at the time. You are strongly encouraged to do this and look at the messages that come out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. We're going to go into the extended after this. It feels like they are not, they're self aware, but their self awareness is really warped by their inability to properly interpret the situation. So we'll get a little bit better feel of what do they think the situation is. And especially, this might be a really good time to get it, even though this energy is really, really raw. Just to kind of understand like what is happening in their emotions during this really, really raw time. And I think that is something that we might ask in tomorrow's reading anyway, just because that is, it's something that it feels like it needs to come out. There's a lot about their emotions that feels like it's kind of swirling and changing. So we'll look at that, but we may, we're going to touch on it a little bit here in the extended when we get there. So I'll either see you there or I will see you in the next reading.